All right, it's time to move to the closing general session here at the home stretch. I'm going to ask Stephen Sears and the co-chairs of the working groups to come up, and we'll do the reports that they had in their working groups. Under our strategic plan, we have 4 working groups that are tightly aligned with the industry initiatives outlined in the strategic plan. These groups are linked directly to the board of directors, which in turn ties back to the overall industry objective. This path is our current path forward, and I'll now turn it over to Stephen Sears and the working groups.
Do we have a deck loaded? And do I have control up here of it? What? Yeah, the slide advance up there. It's just like that? Where's the slide advance? Okay. Okay. We're down to the home stretch, which and thank you. You guys all win for still being here, so thank you very much for being here. We're going to hear briefly from the representatives of the available working groups to talk about what they all do, but you've heard us talk about since 2022 the need for a strategic plan, and everything we do goes by the strategic plan. And I'll just say very quickly why I think a strategic plan is important. It's not just important because most of you have one yourselves, right? So strategic plan is very important for company operations and where you move forward. It's a great roadmap. I think it's at least as important for a trade association to have a strategic plan and a good one. And I'll say why. Because we have many, many different member classes. And you all have your own things going on. People rotate it in and out. And frankly, outside of here, some of you compete against each other. So what a strategic plan for a trade association does do is that it helps establish not only a roadmap where we can all hearken back to and where we're going to go and why we're going to go there, but also it gives a sense of common ground that we can all strive to, because there are things that we all can do. We're all here about EIFs, and that's why we're here today. So these are the four working groups and the co-chairs that are with the various working groups, and we've got one for promotion, 2 for advocacy, and 1 for workforce development and education. And that's how that works. And I'm just going to turn it over now to representatives from the working groups to talk about them. So the first one I'm going to ask is Megan Seawick from the promotion working group to talk a bit about yesterday's meeting.
Hi, everyone. So we had our meeting yesterday. It was my first meeting as co-chair. First, thank you for being patient with me. We talked about a few different things. 3 key things are the AIA presentation. So if you haven't had a chance to take that, you can register for that. We talked about kind of what to do next with the AIA strategy. Are we going to do more courses? Different types of presentations we can do, and how can we continue to promote the current one? So that's out there. If anybody wants to take it, give us some feedback on it, that would be great. Second thing we talked about was the Hero Awards. This was kind of a big piece of the conversation. We talked a little bit about a potential for rebranding. We, I don't know the correct terms, I think approved a motion to actually rename the awards. So previously they were known as Hero Awards. Hero really meant something back a few years ago when that first came out, and we haven't really been promoting the hero theme. So we decided to change the name to the EIFS Excellence Awards. If you were at the meetings in November, we talked a little bit about that too. So the motion was approved to change the name, so keep an eye out for that coming in 2024. We also developed a task group, so a few of us from the committee are going to get together and talk more about how we can get the most out of the rewards program. So different ways to promote it, different categories, maybe different ways for people to get involved and make sure we get the most out of it. The third thing we talked about was the new EIMA website. So Lori did some really hard work putting that together, so if you can take a look at that. give us some feedback on that. We're also working on kind of building out the different pages and making sure we have all of the information that we want to have where we have it. So that's kind of a work in progress still. And then the last thing we talked about is talking as tri-chairs with Lori, is developing kind of a strategic marketing document where we can lay out what do we want to say and who to who. So for things like the AIA course, what is the goal of that course? What are we trying to get out of it? Of course, we want to grow EIFs, but what do we want to say and to who? And so that's something we're gonna work on here coming into 2024. That's all I have for updates. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Megan. That was great. And that's for the promotion working group. And now we're going to go to the technical and research working group represented by Bill Egan, and they are going after strategic initiative number 2 that you see up here on screen.
Thank you. Okay, I'm primarily going to update on standards, codes, and industry associations, and our objective in this committee is basically to develop opportunities and defend existing markets through these standards, codes, and industries. We talked first about ASTM yesterday. There's a couple of subcommittees dedicated to EIFs. One is performance of EIFs, the other is application of EIFs. The items that we're primarily working on at this point are updating existing standards for consistency with code language. We're adding and accentuating language for EIFs for drainage. We are in need of ideas and develop some new standards, and particularly those that can help market acceptance. The ones that we kind of talked about or touched upon would be non-combustible systems and masonry and veneers. There's no standards for those right now, and my feeling is that that would be helpful to the industry. We also talked about the C18 subcommittee, which is for dimensional stone, which sounds like it's not related to EIFs, but they've got language now, or they're considering language that would negatively impact requirements for dimensional stone on EIFs. And the concern here is that actions in this committee could kind of trickle into masonry veneers, which are very common with EIFs. We heard last night at the Hero Award winning meetings that a lot of these systems incorporated masonry veneers, and we need to control our own destiny and work on this particular ballot. The next meeting's in April in Philadelphia, and I know some of the tech folks are going, and EIMA will be represented, so it's something we need to work on. We also talked about the North American Building Alliance. EIMA is a member of that association. They are basically the leading voice on the safe and effective use of plastic building materials and building enclosures or building envelopes. Obviously, a lot of EIFS systems contain foam plastic, so that's a pretty important committee and is very helpful to the industry. A couple of current activities they're working on is they still have their eye on the ball on New York City. There's going to be, at some point in time in the very near future, work on the next code edition of the New York City Code. Unlikely, at least in my opinion, that there's going to be few, if any, changes to the current fire blocking requirements, and there's a long background to that, which I won't get into, but I'm guessing that the current requirements are going to be in effect for a while. They also monitor structure fires or building fires, and it's important to remain informed about fire incidents, not just in the U.S., but also abroad, particularly in structures that contain combustible materials like woods and plastics. And failure to control and provide accurate information on fires can fuel the narrative and detrimental comments about EIFs, tarnish the image, result in code changes, and rushes to judgment. Some examples of some of the fallout from New York into New York City, and then some of the negative information we heard about Grenfell. They're also starting work on, this is NAMBA, starting work on what's called a NFPA 285 repository, and probably everybody in here knows about the NFPA 280 fire test. What they're working on, and it's in the early stages, basically a web-based database that would have a listing for all NFPA 285 compliant assemblies. This would not just for EIFs or any kind of combustible material, and the benefit for that would be easier to locate compliant assemblies, obviously helpful to everybody in the industry, including designers, contractors, code officials, and manufacturers. We're also in the midst of a code cycle in the U.S. The 2024 international codes, the building and fire codes, are in the process of being reconsidered. There's proposed changes that are being considered at this point in time. NAMBA works through determining positions and testimony on these code changes, and obviously these things can impact EIFS. Approved changes will be in the 2027 I-codes. We talked a bit about the environmental product application, EPD, and the grant application for that. And the objective of the grant application was to secure an EPD grant that would fund an industry-wide EPD for EIFS. And just a little bit about the application. It was filed earlier in January. EIMA requested $2.1 million in funding, which would be more than enough to cover an EPD. It would cover all geographic areas in the U.S. and all manufacturers and manufacturing facilities. The goals of the EPA strategic plan align with those of EIMA, which is great. Obviously, we have not heard anything yet. We're supposed to hear sometime in May or June as to whether we get selected for the grant. And I don't know how much everybody knows about EPDs, but just very briefly, what an EPD will do: provides a sustainability message or reports on specific environmental impact factors such as global warming, ozone depletion, and so on and so forth. There's a number of competitive industries that have industry-wide EPDs. Some examples, and I showed it the other day, was the brick industry, PEMA, which is Polyiso Manufacturers Association, EPS industry, the brick industry, Portland Cement Association. The nice thing about it was provides a consistent industry message for EIMA and the EIFS. A lot of competitive claddings already have and use this information, and there's very limited EPDs related to EIFS currently. You know, what we learned through discussions at New York City and Minneapolis, EPDs and sustainability information is being expected and requested by the public in a lot of municipalities, so it's coming. And then it could, well, for individual EIFS manufacturers to get an EPD or EPDs, which oftentimes is multiple needed, it's a significant investment, and our feeling is this could be a cost savings to manufacturers and a good reason to join EIMA. We're also working on technical bulletins, and I think Lori showed that on the website yesterday. There's a section for technical bulletins, so we've got 5 that are underway. I was hoping that we were near the end, but I got some more work to do on them, I guess, so we have some more work to do it on. But it'll be a good start, basic technical information, so once we get those done, posted on the website, we'll start on the next set. And then we had, we talked about, very briefly about, I don't know, I would call these opportunities and threats, probably both. The Air Barrier Association, ABAA, they're developing, or they already have, test requirements for water-resistant barriers, including fluid applieds. Off the top of my head, I don't know what those are, but, you know, obviously that could impact the industry, and, you know, we need to be more active in that association. We talked about a little bit about IIBEC, which is the International Institute of Building and Closure Consultants. They require continuing education units to obtain and maintain credentials such as exterior wall consultants and so on and so forth. They have a list of providers for East Invocation, but there's only 2 of them. EIMA really needs to be on that list, and we're going to try to get on there, maybe possibly use the AIA presentation. That's a pretty influential organization. And then the last, I guess, opportunity and threat would be RAINA, which is the Rain Screen Association. In the 2024 IBC, they added a definition for rain screen, which, based on RAINA's own definitions for rain screen, a lot of the EIFS systems that are out there now don't meet, and it's pretty arbitrary, and once again, it's another place that we need to be influential in. So that was all I had.
Thank you, Bill. As you can see, advocacy in our world comprises 2 things, and it's part of its building codes and standards, which Bill talks about, but it also includes government affairs and advocacy, and I'll introduce you to Raphael Bao.
So, good morning, everyone. Yesterday morning, the Federal, State, and Local Working Group had a session. We had a wonderful presentation by Alex Gleason, who's a Senior Vice President of Mercury Public Affairs, who's been working for our association now for probably a little more than a year. What he taught us, or what he presented to us, that I want to share with you is, first of all, we've created a bunch of available resources that are on the EIMA website they're called the EIFS Advantage documents. Those are tools that each and every one of us in our industry, all of the stakeholders, can use to basically, on the front line, answer questions from people that might not want to help us out, whether it's at the local, state, or even federal level. He went over a step-by-step way to deal with organizations that don't like EIFS or don't want to use EIFS. You got to identify the local political landscape. Who are the key decision makers? That's his playbook, by the way. But you got to know how it's done. We got to know how it's done. Develop a message and a strategy. It's important because every single objection we have out there might be different. Some are fire safety issues, other is affordability, housing affordability, or any other issue. And it's really particular to the different locations. We got to identify affiliate outreach opportunities. We got to build relationships by attending local meetings that are related to the EIFS industry. And we got to take action by standing up for ourselves. And I remember him saying yesterday morning, for you, those of you who weren't there, if there's nobody on our side advocating our position, the void will be filled by the other side, whether they know what we are and who we are or not. I call that his red flag. So whenever any of us in our industry feel that there's smoke out there, there's a potential problem in a jurisdiction, call EIMA, call Lori, call Stephen, and we will try to get a game plan going on, including involving our public affairs firm at Mercury. So they would do everything necessary to try to figure out what the issue is. And the biggest example we have of that having worked out was last fall in Minneapolis, where we came at it probably on our heels with a long shot to try to work it out. But what I've just described to you in terms of getting the gang locally and having as many stakeholders participate in the process, well, the people that were about to push us out of that market had to pull back and say, no, I guess we're wrong, and we got to keep EIFS in the game. Moving forward as an association, we also looked at and decided to concentrate on the largest U.S. markets, the 10 largest metropolitan markets. We can't be trying to do everything and in every single little market. This next year, from what we know, probably Chicago and Boston are going to be two metropolitan areas where we see or feel that there's smoke and there's a little red flag that goes up. And to complete my intervention, what I retained from Alex, who I found very, very passionate as an advocate for our industry, what I learned from him is in the political game, you know, New York City, we didn't have a win last year in New York City, but the way Alex was explaining it to us, it's a long game. The political landscape changes, so we just got to keep at it until we find the appropriate people in time that will listen to our position and maybe reverse course. So there you go. Thank you.
Thank you, Raphael. That was great. And for the last working group, Nate Katz, who's also a board member of EIMA, you're the second longest serving board member on the current board. You all heard from Nate last night, but he's one of the liaisons for the Education and Workforce Development Working Group that goes after Strategic Initiative number 3.
All right, so we had Mike Stark from AWCI come and talk to our group about EIFS Doing It Right 2.0. So this was actually the first program that they created a 2.0 version for. And one of the topics that came up was if there was any plans to do it in person or not. But what Mike had mentioned was that they get a better reach through doing it online, and that seems to be the direction that they're going. Stucco Doing It Right, the course that's going to be happening at AWCI in a couple, was it 2 weeks? That's actually going to be the last Stucco Doing It Right in person. So it's the direction that they're going with all their programs. We want to encourage all the EIMA members to promote EIFS Doing It Right 2.0. One of the other things that was brought up was that, we're kind of preaching to the choir here. Everyone in the room is on board with the EIFS Doing It Right 2.0. We want to try and get that out to the folks that maybe have not taken the course before, or that we can further promote the program for better training purposes. Aside from that, we also talked about the need to create a plan for the younger workers that are coming up, and what kind of path should they follow for this industry. And there's no clear path for them. I know Flavio had mentioned that he was talking to these different kids, and we want to have something that we can put together to show this younger generation the opportunities that are here, the proper education that they should be getting, and training. So that's the next steps we want to look at. And then it did come up about, well, how can we get some trainings for some in-person trainings? And it seems like a lot of the manufacturers are very good at showing some of the newer products, but there was a positive response from the manufacturers to get with some of the applicators and some of the distributors to provide training if they require it or if they need it. So again, going forward, we want to work towards getting the word out there about EIFS, trying to get in front of some of these younger kids, whether they're high school aged, they're already in some sort of a trade school, but just to make them aware of the industry and continue to promote it with that younger generation when they're looking for where they want to take, what path they want to take in life and for their careers.
Thank you, Nate, and thanks to all of these co-chairs and representatives from the working groups for making that happen. Any questions on the work of the working groups? I realize I'm between you and the airport, or lunch.